So, Hare Krishna everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Louder please. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, welcome all to this Sunday feast program. First of all, I like to thank His Grace Chaitanya Vallabha Prabhu for giving me this opportunity to talk this Sunday. Also, I would like to give a complaint to him because he gives me the opportunities at the last moment. So he calls me up and says, Prabhu, you need to fill in. So that becomes a bigger austerity for me to prepare for class. But anyways, it's always a pleasure to talk something about Krishna and Krishna's philosophy. So today's talk is basically, a few weeks back I gave a talk on Narasimha Chaturdasi, and after that particular talk, Robin Mataji was here. She had some particular inquiries, and she was like, not an inquiry, but she posed me a question that, am I happy with what I wanted to convey on my lecture? So in a way I was happy. At the same time, I felt I had to speak more about Prahlad Maharaj and his teachings. And since then, I have been, going through his teachings myself. And I felt that, okay, I can add a little bit more on today's class. So, basically, Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee, and his teachings are very strong, or what you say, very depth in Krishna consciousness, and it can be very touching to us. So maybe it can be touching over here today. So hopefully I can make some justice with what he's saying. Anyways, before we go, is there anyone who is come here for the first time? Yes, Mataji. Where are you from? Your name? Anya? Tanya. Okay. Where are you from, Mataji? Yeah. What do you do? Violin. Wow, that's nice. So we can transfer some music service. Yes. Gerard.
Yeah.
Okay.
From Newcastle.
Newcastle. Okay. What do you do, Prabhu?
I'm retired.
Retired.
Yeah.
Okay. What inspired for you to come over here?
A friend, Jeff, he studies the art, and he wanted to come here.
Okay.
So I said, I would come and read it here.
Okay.
But, for some reason he hasn't been able to turn up.
Okay.
It's okay for next week.
Okay. So are you aware of anything background of Hinduism or Krishna or something?
Yeah, I've been quite interested in Vedanta.
Okay.
And Kashmir, Shaivism, that kind of thing. It's non-duality.
Okay. That's nice. Wonderful. Hope you like association and the program.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Okay, before we can go, we'll start with the Radha Madhav Kirtan. So I request everybody to repeat after me.
Jai.
Okay, before I actually start off the class, I want to pose a question to everyone. Okay, so it's like a icebreaker's question maybe. So this sets the tone for the entire class. So I want anybody to respond or think over that in your lives, has there any situation or circumstances where you have felt, okay, all you needed was a hug or somebody to speak or just a shoulder to cry upon and felt, okay, that would have made my life easy? Anyone?
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhu.
All my brothers and sisters here, you guys have saved my life. You know, don't know how else to say it, but you guys have saved my life. Krishna saved my life, and I thought you always my brothers and sisters. Anyway, sorry, it might sound silly, sorry, but Krishna saved my life.
Yes, that's nice. But I'm looking for a circumstance where you felt you were alone and you felt that, okay, if there was someone over here.
Oh, this might sound really silly. When I first got up in the temple and I found Krishna, Chaitanya gave me a cuddle, and that might sound really silly, right?
Mm.
But it just really helped, you know. And don't know what I'm trying to say. Sorry, sorry. Even you, you're like, you know, unfortunately, I lost all my family, and even you know, when you say hello and you give me a cuddle and stuff. Don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, sorry. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry.
Anyone else wants to give a try? No one?
Just me?
Yes, sir.
I had been through that. 6 months ago, I think it was last year in October, many things have happened in my life, and they happened so quickly that it didn't give me the time to reflect and understand.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I moved from Maidstone to Lincoln. And I came to know about the temple. I came here, I met...
No, you guys are very elevated souls. I just want to have a situation, you know, when you felt, you know, you are alone and you, yeah.
I am alone still. That's one of the reasons from Monday to Saturday I look forward to coming to the temple.
Okay.
Because I feel like this is where I feel like it's part of my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that gives me a bit of, it consoles my soul. And especially when I come to meet, worship is one thing, I have always been doing my life. But meeting the people here, it gives me a new life to carry forward the next part of the next week.
Okay. So let me be more clear. I will state my own example. So last November, I had an eye surgery. Right. So when I was going through that surgery, though people were around me, you know, I felt like I was left out. You know. And when I was just thinking, okay, I need someone over here. No, I'm feeling scared. I don't know what will happen. Okay? So I'm looking for these kind of situations. You know, it may be an examination, or you may be taking a driving exam, and you're stressed out. So these are the situations I'm looking at. Have people experienced any kind of these situations? If not, you guys are very lucky. Yes, Nikunj. 5 days ago, what happened? Okay. So what happened then? You were stressed out?
Yes.
Okay. So what were you thinking? You wanted somebody to be there, help you out. Very eagerly you were waiting. No? Okay. Anybody else?
She wants you to repeat the question.
Okay, the question is, has anybody felt or a need of, a situation where you felt all you needed was a hug or a shoulder to cry or a person to talk? I'm looking for this situation. Yes.
2 years back when I was doing my dissertation, at that time, things were completely unfavorable, and my supervisor was supposed to be helping me, but I had issues with my own supervisor, and then things like that. So I was like in a situation where I had to do this thing, and the deadline was coming, and I have to submit it anyway. So at that time, I was in a helpless situation. I knew that my supervisor himself is not helping me out. So at that time, I just felt like, well, I can do it, but I need someone to support me or give me some confidence and some enthusiasm, motivation to do my job. So I was in such a situation.
Let's go.
God bless you, mate. God bless you.
I passed.
Well, just before I kind of got my experience of Krishna consciousness, like just before I decided, okay, I'm going to go and experience this. So basically, I kind of lost my job. I had nothing in my life. I wanted to get married. I had nobody. I didn't have a job. And materially speaking, I was a failure. Right? And my friends were back home. Here, some of them were in jail. And I'm not going to go into details, but lots of complications, and I was just ready to go. I was just ready to leave the world. I had no, I was in that state of mind where I wanted my life to end, basically.
Wow.
So that's when I was stressed.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you, bro. Thanks. We should do your profiling later. Okay. Last one, anyone? Yes, Madhu.
When I moved to UK, Prabhuji,
That's a common situation.
I mean, it's not as harsh as eye surgery or something, but I was all by myself. That kind of experience I do not want it to, because see, the culture differences there. Then when I started sharing apartment with other roommates, and also this veg-non-veg issue is always there. Yeah. So I used to cry initially. Literally, I used to play Narasimha every hour when I came in the beginning.
See, all are little souls.
No.
I used to call back home and speak to my wife or, but I never chanted Narasimha.
I used to play it on YouTube and listen to it because I used to just cry when I came here in the beginning.
Yes. Good? Okay. Thanks for everyone for sharing. Okay, that sets the tone for today's discussion. But invariably, I guess every one of us have been to a situation, whether we like it or not, that we want somebody to be there, hearing us, hearing our emotions, our feelings. We crave for that, right? So, this aspect where we crave for some kind of relation, some kind of association, like if it is not spiritual, that is Maithanam. Okay, and Maithanam is one of the strongest attachments that holds back us to the material world, right? So we discuss that as a today's topic. So the sloka what we are going to discuss is chapter 2, text 44. So Prabhu can put across. It's page 130. It's a very small purport also, but still I just wanted to put across. So first I will repeat the sloka and finish it up. Afterwards I will repeat it again. Bhogaishwarya Prasartartam Tayyar Arpatam Tetasam Vyavishadnatika Buddhi Samadho Na vidiyate. So the translation is, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Okay, please repeat after me. Bhogeshwarya Prasannartham Tayyarpata Chetasam Vyavisatmatka Buddhiti Samadhav Na Vidiyate. So can anyone repeat? Bhogeshwarya Prasanna Tayyarpata Vyavasamatmika Buddhihi Samadhavana Vidiyate. Anybody else? Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam Taya Kartakate Sasanam Vyavasaya Buddhihi Samadhavana Vidiyate. Anybody else? Bhogeshwarya Prasaktanam Taya Kartakate Sasanam Okay. Please repeat after me. Bhoga. To material enjoyment. Aishwarya. And opulence. Prasaktana. For those who are attached. Taya. By such things. Adpata Chetasam. Bewildered in mind. Vyavasayatmaka. Fixed in determination. Buddhihi. Devotional service to the Lord. Samadhav. In the controlled mind. Na. Never. Vidiyate. Thus take place. Translation. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Samadhi means fixed mind. The Vedic dictionary, the Nirukti, says Samyak adiyate smin atma tattva yathatmayam. When the mind is fixed for the understanding the self, it is said to be in the Samadhi. Samadhi is never possible for persons interested in material sense enjoyment, nor for those who are bewildered by such temporary things. They are more or less condemned by the process of material energy. Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parigana Sanitam Krishna Satyam Sri Radha Krishna Saran Sahagraneta Shikam Vikakamikansha Hey Krishna Saranam Sri Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kamsana Dhavanandi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusita Devi Pranamami Hari Puri Vani च कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यश्च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So, here in this sloka, Krishna is telling about how a person whose mind is very much attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who are also bewildered by such things, cannot have a resolute determination to devotional service. So before we can understand this aspect, I would like to start off telling, like, when Krishna actually started telling Bhagavad Gita, to Arjuna, if you see the Bhagavad Gita as such, he is not talking about bodily aspect at all. He is talking about soul. In only few sentences, few verses in chapter 2, he describes the nature of the body. But invariably he discusses more on soul. The reason is, he was surprised like why Arjuna was actually worried about the body. But he just says about soul, and immediately by the end of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is able to completely grasp hold about the concept of soul, and he starts to fight the war. Right? So from this we can understand that actually, throughout his life, Arjuna was on a platform of a soul. He was a liberated person, and only in this particular instant, he was bewildered and he fell on a bodily consciousness. Right? So because he had experienced that platform of the soul, he was able to immediately get connected to the teachings of what Krishna was telling. So for him, the bodily aspect was momentarily for that particular time. Otherwise, he was able to. Otherwise, he used to be mostly in that state of self-realized soul, and that's why he was not concerned about the body. But whereas, on the other hand, the Jivatmas like us who was stuck in this material world, we are always on a bodily platform. So sometimes when we start about soul or being Krishna consciousness or being God consciousness, we are not able to link it, right? So the reason is most of the time we are on bodily consciousness, right? So it is very difficult for us to, though understand theoretically what Krishna is saying, but for us to realize what exactly is soul, how that nature of a soul is, because we are still under the influence of the body. Okay, so that's why we are all mostly on the bodily consciousness, right? So when I say bodily consciousness, what do you think bodily conscious means? Anyone? Attachments? One. Anybody else? Yes, Nico. Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maitana. Anybody else?
Sense is separate self.
Sorry?
Separate self. Would that be part of it? The sense of being the separate self.
Sense of being separate self.
Separate.
Separate. Okay. Fine. So, from next time, I should not ask Nikun to sit with me when I am making a lecture. So yes. So the Vedas or Vedic knowledge says, the bodily consciousness is when we are primarily thinking about four aspects. That is Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya and Maitra. So there is a sloka in Hitopanishad, also Mundaka Upanishad. It says Ahara, Nidra, Bhaya, Maitunam cha samayam etat pashubi naranam. So it says, the meaning of this first two sentences of this stanza is ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithuna. That is food, eating, sleeping, defending and mating are four principles that are common to both human beings and animals. Okay? So if you see any species of life, let it be an ant or let it be a elephant or a most sophisticated creature, what we call ourselves as human beings, every one of these bodies are actually always thinking about these aspects. Ahara, nidra, bhaya and maithuna. That is eating, sleeping, defending and mating. Mating or relationships. So if you take, we can understand this, if you take an animal, if anybody of you had pets, any dog, cats, fish, anything. Now always these pets are already thinking about these three things. If you go to taking a food, your pet dog would come running and says, okay, I want a food. Or as soon as you go to the bed, your pet dog would jump on the bed or a cat would jump on the bed, starts with you. So it is always thinking about that. Nothing more, nothing less. So it is easy for us to understand that if we observe any lower species of animals, so-called bodies, in case they are always thinking about these four aspects. Only thing varies is the complication in which they are having this is different. Okay, some food may be edible for some animals and some food may not be edible for some animals. Apart from that, the intention of thinking about food or sleep is the same. Right? If you take an example, dolphin would sleep one hemisphere of the brain at one time. Okay? This is called as unihemispheric sleep. So what happens? It goes to sleep. Half of the brain is sleeping. When other half of the brain is awake, and it swaps. So it's just a complication or it's the nature of that particular body. It's nothing special. So what is happening? So in that manner, if you take a vulture's primary diet is only bones. Okay, if you give them any food, even flesh, it doesn't eat. Because it is so designed to have only that kind of a food. So what makes humans or human body so distinct from animals? Anyone? No question.
You can have the capacity to think.
Capacity to think.
Yeah. Beyond that four principles you mentioned.
Beyond that four principles.
So did you ask what makes the body except the body specific?
Human body. Different from animals. Anybody else? So Prabhu said, human body has a capacity to think above that four principles. That's all? Yes? Intelligence. Wow, okay. In what way?
Like a human got more.
Sorry?
Is more intelligent than any animal. You can't think.
Yes, I use that intelligence to make a paratha rather than just. Is that the intelligence we are looking at?
You can differentiate between right and wrong.
Yeah.
Right and wrong. Wow.
Self-reflect.
Self-reflect. Wow, wonderful. You can go there. Yes, tell
You
me.
can think about God, but
Think about God. Yes. Yeah, somebody told your answer.
There is a sense of religion in human society.
Sense of religion in human society, right? So, the same sloka, Hitopanishad, what it is saying, Ahara nidra bhaya maithunam cha samayam etat pashubil naranam. So, pashubil means animals, narana means humans. So, it's saying Ahara nidra bhaya maithuna is same for humans and the animals. Dharmo hi tesam adhiko vishesha. dharmena hina pashubhihi samanaha. So what is telling? Dharmo hi tesham adhiko vishesha. It's just that dharma, ability to follow the dharma, makes a human special than an animal. Okay? Dharma hina inaha pashubhihi samanaha. Without that dharma, a human being is pashubhihi samanaha, means it is equivalent to an animal. So the Vedas or the scriptures is saying, if a person is able to follow that dharma, then he is above an animal. But if a person is not thinking about that dharma, he is equivalent to an animal. So in Vedas it says Vipada Pashu. Vipada means V means two, Pada means legs, Pashu means animal. So Vedas say a person who is not thinking about following the dharma or religion or self-realization or anything like that, but is solely concentrated, having different flavors of ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithuna, is considered as Dvipada Pashu, that is two-legged animal. Right? So if I say all of you are two-legged animals, or if I say I am also two-legged animal, we get insulted. Right? We get offended. Maybe if I tell it in my workplace, I may be kicked out of my work also. Right? So, but this is not what I am saying. This is what Vedas are saying. If we just concentrating on ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithuna, we are just two-legged animals. But if we get start inquiring about that religious things, or start inquiring what is that dharma which makes me special in this human body, then we become fit to be being a human being. Right? So what is that dharma? Okay? We always say, Sanatana Dharma. Right? So human body has this ability or the opportunity, provides an opportunity for the entrapped soul to perform activities which are actually in reality his original activities, the soul's original activities. So Prabhupada in many of his purports says, what is that? When you say dharma, how can you relate this? So dharma is like most, what you say, English word or English translation I can give you is the inherent characteristics of that particular entity is called as dharma. Right? So if I say fire, the inherent quality of a fire is to burn or having a high temperature. Okay? At the same time, if I say inherent quality of a liquid is to flow, it cannot hold itself, it flows. So like this, there are inherent qualities of individual elements. At the same time, there is an inherent quality of an individual soul that is to be a servant of the Lord. Okay? So, only the human body provides this opportunity for us to perform this inherent quality of the soul. That's why this human birth is considered very, very rare and very, very useful for us. Okay? Why it is very rare? There are 84 lakh species of bodies one can get, or 8.4 million types of different types of birth, right from animal birth, plant birth, reptiles, fish, etc., or even lower species of humans are all classified within these different types of bodies. But only a human birth provides an opportunity for a Jivatma to perform these activities which can relate the true activities of a soul. Yes, Niman.
So
we are not like you elevated souls. So, because the human birth or human body provides this opportunity, the first step of making use of this human body is to understand how there is a difference between the body and the soul itself. Right? So anybody can say what are the characteristics of this body apart from Nikunj? Yes, bro.
Well, Srila Prabhupada describes that the material body goes through 6 different stages. It's born, it grows, it produces some byproducts, it remains for some time, and then it dwindles, and then finally dies.
So Prabhu explained everything. So he can come and sit. Yeah. So basically, the body has this nature of taking a birth, growth, flourishes for some time. It produces the byproducts, and eventually dies off. Okay. Whereas, in case of a spirit soul, it is the nature is described as Sat Chit Ananda. Okay, Sat means eternal, Chit means full of intelligence, and Ananda means blissful. So, if you take the aspect of eternal aspect, the characteristic nature of a soul is eternal. Right? So that's why, even though we are stuck in this particular body, whose characteristic nature is to dwindle and die off, because we are spirit souls, we never think about death. Has anybody thought about death? Consistently thinking, okay, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Yeah. So you take some plan out of the day and say, okay, I'm going to think about it. So you're not going to think consistently about death. Is that correct? Anybody refutes my statement? Yes?
Well, I think, let's say someone you know passes away, family member or a friend or something, then you may think about it.
Yes.
And I think also, as you get older, you may start to think about it more.
Yes. We think about death, but you don't plan for death. Right? When you get up, morning, you may start to make plans. The reason is you're never thinking about death, or I'm going to die today. Okay, you may think death is brutal or painful, etc. But even after the episodes of, a family member being passed away, etc., it's only during that particular time we are associated with that may be painful, etc. But eventually, we don't go into that situation that each day I'm thinking, okay, today is my death is coming. I have to plan like that. We never think about it. Right? Yes, but we wanted to say something.
I mean, not in the sense like myself, but as part of the nature of my work, as a mortgage advisor, we always tell them, in an unlikely event if anything happens to you, what will happen to you?
Yeah, that is different. What I am trying to say is, when you get up in the morning, you plan your day. Right? You make your breakfast, you make your lunch. If you know you are going to die, you may not even make your dinner. Right? But nobody plans for it. Nobody is telling, I am not going to die, I am not going to stay here in the dinner, so I don't have a dinner plans. Right? So we always plan that. Okay? I had this, one of my uncles was working as a chartered accountant. He was working in one firm. The firm was managed by a person who was about 90 years old. Throughout his life, he has worked as a chartered accountant, etc. So he had these plans of expanding the firms, etc. So when my uncle went to him, you know, so he was very cautious in asking how are you feeling, etc. So he's putting up his 5 years plan. You know, what's the plan for this? You know, how the company needs to go in this company. What is my role? You know, how I'm positioning, etc. So if you just imagine even an old person, over 95, 90 years old, that he was trying to make plans for next 5 years. You know. So what I am trying to explain is, you may be old, you may be diseased, or you may be in a business like, you know, job like mortgage thing, etc. But still, on day-to-day basis, when we get up, when we make a plan for the day, we never think about that. The reason is that the soul inherently is eternal and it never thinks about it. Right? So that is the characteristic of the soul. At the same time, the characteristic of the soul is Ananda. Ananda means to be always blissful. So that's why wherever we go, whatever we do, we look out for happiness. You know? So if I go to if I all take you to some restaurant, you are not going to choose a random meal. You know, you are going to choose a meal which makes you happy. Right? So same, I'm just giving you a simple example, but if you see, wherever you go, you are going to sit with the people whom you want to be with, because that gives you happiness. If you go to a movie, you are going to choose a movie which is going to make you happy. Right? The reason is, characteristically, the soul has always been happy, but since it is entrapped in this body, it is looking out for happiness. Right? So there is a collusion over here. There is a collusion between the two things. That's a soul which is inherently happy, which is inherently eternal, whereas the body or the soul is also inherently intelligent. It has all knowledge. But in case of a body, is dull. The body is limited. The body has a finite duration of life. At the same time, the body cannot give that happiness. Since that we are trapped in that, the soul is struggling to find the real aspect of enjoyment, the real identity. If the soul is not able to find out, it just going from one body to another body to another body. Okay? So this is where the Vedanta Sutras start the actual purpose of a human birth. The human birth is meant to have self-realization. Prabhu was telling there is a self-difference. The body is different and self is different. He made a wonderful point. So Vedanta Sutra says, Atato Brahma Jignasa. So now you have got this human body of life. Now it's time to become for you to set into the path of self-realization. Enquire about yourself. Enquire about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in chapter 7, text 3, there is like Manushyanam Sahasresu Kaschit Yatati Siddhaye. But this sloka, Krishna says that out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. So just imagine, we get this human form of life after transmigrating from 8.4 million types of birds, species, and we get this human form of life. Yet, out of this human births, there are very few people who actually endeavor for self-realization. Very few. Now, Krishna says also many thousands, only one person tries to endeavor for perfection. So what is that endeavor he is trying to make? Okay, what is the purpose of life? What should I do? How I am different from an animal? What is the true purpose of true happiness? And they set on different paths. Only few actually go for this, and out of these few people are actually endeavoring for perfection. When they go for different places of knowledge gathering, try to understand. So that's why we see there are different forms of religion, and each of these forms of religion try to give some aspect of knowledge about what is a soul, etc. Also, there is different paths. Even in Bhagavad Gita, if one is actually comes in relation with in touch with Bhagavad Gita, even there is different paths within Bhagavad Gita where Krishna gives paths for dhyana yoga, jnana yoga, ashtanga yoga, like this. So whoever actually gets in touch with these paths of different ways of realizing self will actually endeavor for perfection. Right? Just imagine we had 8.4 million species of life. You get a human birth, and out of that human birth, there is one out of thousands. One is actually seeking for perfection. But out of so many people who are seeking perfection, Krishna says hardly one knows me in truth. That is a rarity of that human birth. In the rarity of human birth, there is very few people who set for spiritual path or self-realization, and in this rare people who are setting for spiritual realization, only one becomes actually perfect. Okay? In the same thing, Krishna says, before that, why this path of becoming perfect is difficult? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Because the material nature is so alluring. So illusion feels like it's so real, and we are so much attached to it.
Yes.
We just go for it time and again, and that's why I say it's very difficult.
Yes.
Unless you have the, as you say, the realization, which if you don't take into this path, it's very difficult.
Nice, brother.
Thank you.
Nikunj.
Well, there's one shloka where Krishna says these three modes of material nature, this energy of mine is very difficult to surpass because it continuously subdues you. Every time you try and progress or put more effort or energy or mind control into it, it puts even harder because it's infinite, because it's an energy of Krishna.
Well done, little man. Well done.
Then we will have a speaker for the next
Yeah,
week.
well done. Well done.
So, just to reflect upon what His Grace Ramay Prabhu said and Nikunj said, yes.
His Grace, Nikunj.
So, we are put in this condition where we are constantly being illusioned by the material energy that to think we are the body. Okay? So whenever we try to put some effort for making some self-realization, the material energy, puts this bewilderment for us to sway away from this perfection. Right? Even in this sloka, what 2.44, the translation says, in the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things. So we, when we are entrapped in this human form or any body, when I say ahara nidra bhaya maithuna, this is a form of allurement what material energy is giving to us. That's why always we tend to plan what the body needs rather than the soul needs. Right? As I said, only few people try to surpass these allurements or the urges of the body and try to achieve perfection. So as I said, the bodily aspects is ahara, nidra, bhaya, maithuna. Out of all these things, the maithuna is the most strongest, which holds back one to this material world. right? Doesn't want us to allow to achieve spiritual perfection. Okay? So here I want to take an example of Bharata Maharaja, right? So Bharata Maharaja was a king, a Kshatriya king who followed the entire principles of his duties, and once that life age came, he set forward to be a mendicant, and he wanted to go in forest and perform his spiritual duties just to get self-realization. But what happens when he is performing these austerities? A small baby deer, he gets attached with it. So how many of you know the story of Bharata? Right. So the story is simple. Basically, this king or rishi is sitting and meditating in the forest for achieving perfection. At the same time, there is a mother deer which is heavily pregnant, is followed or attacked by a tiger. Just when the tiger is about to leap forward on the mother immediately delivers this baby deer, and it runs away, and then even the tiger chases the mother deer and goes away. But this baby deer which has fallen down is seen by Bharata Maharaja. But Bharata Maharaja has left everything. He has left his kingdom, he has left his family, he has left his children, everything. Just to achieve perfection, he leaves everything, and he's sitting and doing his meditation or for self-realization, and he captures this scene where the baby deer, just born baby deer, is crying out for mother. So out of compassion, Bharata Maharaja is not able to meditate, and he goes, and for that particular moment he helps that particular deer. But that baby deer immediately gets attached to Bharata Maharaja and considers Bharata Maharaja to be the mother. So whatever Bharata Maharaja tries to do, the baby deer is behind. He takes up the responsibility. So what happens? Initially, he has spent 5 minutes or few minutes for helping out the baby deer. Now daily he is spending his time. He started spending more and more time for taking care of the deer. And it so happens, each time he sits for meditating, he is thinking about the deer. He starts thinking, where is the deer? Should I has the deer eaten its food? So it goes into so much extent, he unknowingly gets attached to this deer so strongly that instead of meditating, he constantly thinking about the deer. Okay, just imagine a plight of this person. He has left his family, he has left his kids, his children, everybody, his king, everything. But he goes and sits and he gets attached to this deer. And finally what happens, one day this deer doesn't come for a long time, and this king Bharata starts to explore where exactly is this deer, whether it is being trapped or something, with a hunter trap or something. So what happens, eventually he falls into the trap made by the hunter, and at the time of death, he is able to see the deer. The deer peeks at Bharata Maharaja, and Bharata Maharaja dies. So eventually Bharata Maharaja becomes a deer in the next life. Right? The point I am trying to make over here is, Bharata Maharaja was what kind of one soul, was that kind of a soul. He was like, out of all the thousands men who were born, who was seeking perfection, Bharata Maharaja was that kind of a person seeking perfection. Manushyanam Sahasreshu. And he did that. He left out all this, material attachments, egos, but yet the material energy was so strong, it entraps him. Right? So, Krishna, in 7th chapter, again, 19th sloka, he says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyante vasudeham sarvamiti sa mahatma sa durlabha. So, even though you may be that one particular person who is seeking for perfection, but only if you consider Vasudevam Sarvamiti, the purpose of the life, whole and sole purpose of the life is just to serve Krishna. If one gets that realization, only then one can seek perfection or get perfection. Right? So similarly, like Bharata Maharaja, who went for perfection, but his whole and sole purpose got deviated by a deer. So that's why he had to fall down. But he was so transcendental, but he was so blessed that he was able to get back immediately. But not many may try to get that. So that's why getting this attachment to this material world is very, very difficult situation for the devotees or a person who is seeking perfection. So, as I said when I started this lecture, I was inspired by the teachings of Prahalad Maharaja. Right? So those who remember, Prahalad Maharaja was just a 5-year-old boy. Right? Yet, his realizations were far, far strong than anybody else. Right? So if you know the story of Prahalad Maharaja, Srimad Bhagavatam describes that when Hiranyakashipu, his father, came to know that Prahalad Maharaja was actually, worshipping Lord Vishnu, Hiranyakashipu becomes very, very angry, frustrated that his own son is actually, rejected him and took, worshipping his enemy Lord Vishnu. So what happens? He immediately puts Prahalad Maharaja in lot of difficulties. Right? So even in those difficulties, there are descriptions given on how Prahalad Maharaja was tortured by Hiranyakashipu. So he was put, initially he was put in a prison house. It's not like well-lit prison house where everything facility is available. It is not like, okay, this is my son who is in the prison house, I will give him facilities, just not put him in a room. It's not like that. Hiranyakashipu actually puts Prahalad Maharaja in a proper prison house. Okay? Dark, there is no facilities for him, there is no food provided to Prahalad Maharaja. So yesterday I was playing a game with on Xbox along with Nikunj. So when I was playing a game, it was like our character is going inside a bunker kind of a thing. After a few minutes, Nikunj said, "No, I am feeling very claustrophobic. I don't want to play this game," and he went out of the room. It's not a real game, means real situation, but it's a game we are playing. But still, he felt very claustrophobic, a 9-year-old boy. But just imagine the situation of Prahalad Maharaja. He was a 5-year-old boy. He was kept inside a prison house. No, nothing else. Claustrophobic, no food, nothing. Yet, he didn't even slightly, for even a second, got bewildered or got scared about the situation. Right? At the same time, whatever situations came, you know, he never thought, okay, for a moment at least, I should have my mother along. He wanted that one shoulder hug. He never wanted that hug. He never wanted that shoulder to cry upon. He never wanted to even think about of having a phone call with a mother or somebody. He never wanted to even, get situations sorted out with his father. The reason was he knew this Maithunam is an attachment for the body. Just imagine he goes to the torture of different problems, yet he never, at even given slightest point of time, he says or prays to Krishna or calls out for his mother also. That was the personality of Prahlad Maharaja. And this Prahlad Maharaja, he teaches, to his friends who are also 5 years old, 6 boys. And in that 5 teachings, Prahlad Maharaja makes 2 important, he gives many teachings, but I want to highlight 3 aspects of it. One thing is, Prahlad Maharaja says, the human body is more rarely achieved. Okay? Although temporary like other bodies, it is meaningful because only in human life one can perform devotional service. Even a slight amount of sincere devotional service can give one complete perfection. This was the first teaching what Prahlad Maharaja gives to his 5-year-old friends. Right? 5-year-old friends. Then going on, he says very strong words. Okay, this relates to Maithunam. Okay, don't get offended or something like that if I'm trying to say. But this is what Prahlad Maharaja is saying. How can a person who is affectionate to his family, the core of his heart, being filled with their pictures, give up their association? Specifically, a wife, always very kind and sympathetic, and always pleases her husband in a solitary place. Who could give up the association of such a dear and affectionate wife? Small children talk in broken language, very pleasing to hear, and their affectionate father always thinks of their sweet words. How could he give up their association? One's elderly parents and one's sons and daughters are also very dear. A daughter is especially dear to her father, and by living at her husband's house, she is always in his mind. Who could give up that association? Aside from this, in household affairs, there are many decorated items of household furniture, and there are also animals and servants. Who could give up such comforts? The attached householder is like a silkworm, which weaves a cocoon in which it becomes imprisoned, unable to get out. Simply for the satisfaction of 2 important senses, the genitals and the tongue, one is bound by material condition. How can one escape? This is a sloka given by Prahlad Maharaja. One sloka given by Prahlad Maharaja to his friends. The next sloka is telling, my dear friends, O son of demons, it is certain no one is bereft of knowledge of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has been able to liberate himself from the material bondage at any time and in any country. Rather, those bereft of knowledge of the Lord are bound by material laws. They are factually addicted to sense gratification, and their target is women. Indeed, they are actually playthings in the hands of women. Victimized by such conception of life, they become surrounded by children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, and thus they are shackled to the material bondage. Those who are very much addicted to this conception of life are called demons. Now, I will repeat again. Those who are very much addicted to these conceptions of life is called as demons. Therefore, Although you are sons of demons, keep aloof from such persons and take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, the origin of all the demigods, because the ultimate goal for the devotees is Narayana, is liberation from the bondage of material existence. Very strong words by Prahlad Maharaja. Okay. So now, how many of us are able to go beyond this conception of life? How many of us are not thinking, okay, I come to temple, I do my service, I do chant, but how many of us are looking for that hug from our loved ones? How many of them we are still striving to get that shoulder to cry when we are in pain from our loved ones? Or how many of us want to be heard by our loved ones? These feelings, what we get, is basically on bodily platform. This is the urge for the body to have a maithuna. So one needs to go beyond this conception of life to achieve perfection. So the last thing I want to say is how to go beyond this bodily conception of life. So we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his Sri Shishtastakam telling, Nadapi Sunichena, Tarurapi Savishuna, Amanina Manadina, Kirtaniya Sadahari. He's telling, one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So why I am telling this? One should chant, one should be humble, one should be tolerant, one should be false of prestige. The reason is again in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text 8 onwards, Krishna tells different types of knowledge. Okay, and one knowledge one develops on serving Krishna is having Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So you develop knowledge to understand what is Janma, what is Mrityu, what is Jara and Vyadi. So you are able to recognize Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. You are able to understand these are the impacts of the body. At the same time, Krishna is telling freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home and rest, even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events, and detachment from the general mass of the people. So these are the knowledge one obtains from being spiritual. And the first aspect of being spiritual is being humble, being tolerant, and having no pridelessness, having no pride. And this can be only achieved by chanting the names of the Lord. That is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So with that I will end the class. Hopefully it was good. So let me know if you have any questions, comment, constructive criticisms are welcome. Yes, bro.
It's just a question, not a constructive. How did that dog become liberated? You remember the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was telling us
Yes.
liberate the dog, right?
Yeah.
How is that possible if he or she was well, you see where I'm going.
Yeah. So basically, the dog was participating in the kirtan. At the same time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu hugs that child. So because even in that state of mind, of that dog was to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And once the dog was touched by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was completely purified. So that is the mercy of the Lord. So when there is mercy of the Lord, it doesn't matter you are a human born, animal born, anything. You can do it.
But it couldn't be something that would be like spontaneous for a non-human to do, like, or is it would have to have that like direct contact?
See, it's just like this. If you are going near to a fire, you feel the warmth. Let it be human born, let it be animal born, anyway. Right? So same way, when you are going near to Krishna, okay, you automatically, your inherent qualities becomes very much exhibited. So the dog was fortunate enough. It came so near to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was able to exhibit that. So when it was so near, the external body was irrelevant.
Okay, got it.
So the internal inherent characteristics became so relevant that it started become very ecstatic. And again, it's the mercy of the Lord. He never saw that it is a dog or a thing, so he made him liberated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions, comments, thoughts? Yes, bro.
Thank you, bro. Odati, thank you very much for this very much and enlightening, very deep concept of philosophy, and also making us think about like spiritual life and the aim of life. And it was very enthusiastic class. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
There are so many aspects we touched, and it was very good from different angles. Very appreciated.
Thank you. No more questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is, I always think, like, for example, as a Hindu, you believe that the Supreme Personality of the Godhead is Krishna. You need to follow the Dharma as a human to analyze and all. Similarly, a Christian might be thinking like Jesus Christ. Similarly, a Muslim might be thinking like each of them from their perspective, they are following what is the Dharma for them, the righteous path. They say that all roads lead to Rome, they will say. So how do we justify? Because let's take, end of the day, we are all believing that Supreme Personality. So each of them, are they correct in their own aspects?
You need to understand the core principles of each religion. Srila Prabhupada used to say, if you see the practice of Christian, what is they do? They chant the names of the Lord. If you take the core principles of Islam, they also chant the names of the Lord. It's the same with Hinduism or any other religion. So what each of the religions says is to become God consciousness. And being God consciousness is an inherent quality of the soul. So that is a thing which you need to perform. So even whenever Srila Prabhupada went to any of this, interfaith discussions, what Prabhupada said was the same thing. You follow the religion in a true manner. Okay? So when you follow your religion in true manner, as it is, you come to the platform of God consciousness. And once one person comes to the platform of God consciousness, he is able to see what is material, what is spiritual. So that's the answer. It's only the path may be different. If you want to go to city center, you may be taking a bus, somebody may be taking a train, somebody, may be parachuting it or something like that. So how you are going may be different, but the destination is the same. But what happens is, you want to go by car, you see a person going by bus, you get confused whether I should go by bus or a car, you are stuck. Or you may start, that's the nature of the body again. Right? oh, the car is better, the bus is better, we have fights for it. Yes. Once.
No, in that context, I remember there was Prabhupada one time, there was an analogy that he did, like different religions, people like to say, well, one was a one was and who is right, who is wrong. When he said like, for an example, like if you're coming to Newcastle, say if you're coming from the south, so the guidance would be for you, your sat-nav say go north. So the guy is coming from Scotland. For him, the sat-nav said go south. And those coming from Manchester or the west, he said go to east. Those coming from the east, he said go west. But the destination is the same. But people would say which track you're taking, where you are, and how you follow the route. So, but we're getting mixed up about, no, why are you saying you should go to the south? But you're coming from the north. So where you are, that's a guidance, that's a book, that's a scripture for you. So it's a level of, different level of realization that you can get. So actually, if you follow exactly what your sat-nav is saying, you will come eventually to the same route. It could be long, it could be short, but definitely you can start.
Thank you. You couldn't. Oh, yes.
Yes. So just one more point I'd like to add on this topic. Also, like ISKCON, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, is basically non-sectarian. So like the word religion, it's got a different meaning to what people can understand. Because religion sometimes are, okay, I'm from one religion, I cannot follow another religion. But what Srila Prabhupada taught us, whatever religion someone is in, whatever religion he follows, it's still going to be beneficial for him. Because there's one God, just like there's one sun in the sky. It's not like there's a Hindu God or an American God or a Christian God. There's one God. But he came and delivered his message according to time, place, and circumstance. So for example, Jesus in the Bible, it said, thou shalt not murder. I don't need to tell you that. You know already, you're not going to go and kill somebody. So imagine what kind of people Jesus had to preach to. For him to tell them, you don't kill each other, right? Prophet Muhammad came here and he told them, you shouldn't have sex with your sister and your mother. So what kind of people were they? For him to give this kind of message, right? But the Bhagavad Gita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was spoken to an assembly of sages. So this is why the contents that are given, like in any other religion, it tells you a little bit, but it doesn't tell you what God is like, what he wears, what his mother's like, what his father's like, what he does then, all his activities. This is described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, in terms of destination, this is the supreme destination, which is Goloka Vrindavan. So this is what we are putting on your sat-nav. The others can send you to Vaikuntha, we can send you to heavenly planets. Like you follow the Muslim religion, what is it? You get 1,000 virgins. You pray to God.
So basically what happens is, if you follow any other religion also, the destination is the same, but the checkpoints where you reach is different.
Yeah.
Right? So as Prabhu said, the audience who received Bhagavad Gita was different. It's like if you're a student of mathematics, if I'm trying to teach you, what is 1 plus 1, and you're a PhD student, for you that becomes irrelevant, or you don't need much time for understanding. At the same time, for if you are sitting with a year 1 student, year 1 school student, that 1 plus 1, for getting that concept is very difficult. But what happens is, eventually, if the student grows in that, he may go to the theory of calculus, etc. So, what these religions does is, the focus is the Supreme God, Supreme Consciousness. Only thing is the checkpoint, what they reach is different. Last question by Nicole. What is? what is the test? We are not bothered about the checkpoints because we are already in the process of a different thing. The destination, what we are looking is, we need to navigate through the material world, go beyond this material world, reach the doors of the Vaikuntha Loka. From there you go beyond all the lokas. You can have Vaikuntha Loka, Ayodhya, all those things. Then on top of everywhere, you have Goloka. At Goloka, you need to go further up, search for Krishna, look for his feet and touch his feet. That is should be the goal of all the devotees. Okay?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we'll end over here. Thanks a lot. Hare Krishna.